Your first choice for a new home should be a Prospect home.
Today on Face the Nation, Republicans fighting among themselves, Democrats trying to find an agenda that goes beyond criticizing Republicans. What is going to happen in the midterm elections now just 5 months away? President Bush's poll numbers are the lowest ever. Congress is mired in partisan fighting. And who speaks for the Democrats? As the war goes on and gas prices go up, will there be a turnover in Congress? 33 Senate seats are at risk this fall, and every seat in the House of Representatives. We'll talk about it with the top strategist for Democratic Senate candidates, Chuck Schumer of New York, and Kentucky's Mitch McConnell, the number 2 Republican in the Senate. Elizabeth Bumiller of the New York Times will join in the questions, and I'll have a final word on Memorial Day. Have we forgotten what it means? But first, the Senate midterms on Face the Nation.
Face the Nation with CBS News Chief Washington Correspondent Bob Schieffer. And now from CBS News in Washington, Bob Schieffer.
And good morning again on this Memorial Day, which aside from its official meaning is sort of the start of summer and the unofficial beginning of the fall campaigns. And to talk about that this morning, from Louisville, Kentucky, the Assistant Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell from the Senate, and from New York City, Senator Chuck Schumer, the number 1 strategist for the Democratic Senate candidates. Joining in our questioning this morning, Elizabeth Bumiller, the White House correspondent of the New York Times. Senator McConnell, let me start with you. Republicans are fighting among themselves in a way I haven't seen in quite a while. The war is going on. Those gas prices are up. The Veterans Administration has found a way to let 27.5 million veterans has found a way to let their records, including their Social Security numbers, to be stolen. The former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, said the other day that Democrats didn't really need an agenda anymore, or that really all they had to say is had enough. I want to ask you, are you going to be able to hold your majorities in the Senate and House this year?
Well, we're certainly going to hold the majority in the Senate. It has been a challenging period. The president's numbers are much lower than we would like. But it's important to remember, Bob, that we only have one retirement, one open seat in Tennessee, which is a pretty red state. And if you look back at 1994, which I know is the year the Democrats are hoping will be similar to what maybe they can expect in 2006, it was indeed the best Republican congressional election of the 20th century. And we did regain the House and Senate. But on the Senate side, we only beat 2 incumbents. All the rest of the changes were in open seats. We only have one retirement this year, as I indicated, in Tennessee, about as good a place to have an open seat from a Republican point of view as possible. Could the Democrats get back the Senate? They could. They'd have to win the open seat in Tennessee, would have to knock off 5 incumbents, and would have to count on us not winning anywhere else where they currently occupy the seat. I'm not saying it's impossible, but if I were a betting man, I'd bet that the Senate's going to be in Republican hands after the November election.
Now, I notice you did say that we think we can hold it in the Senate. Senators sometimes don't like to talk about what's going on in the House, but what do you see going on in the House of Representatives right now? Do you think it is in danger of being captured by the Democrats?
Well, I just don't think I'm an expert on all of these House districts. There are 435 of them. I keep reading, as you do, that the Republicans should be able to hold the districts, that there are fewer competitive districts than in the past. And after all, at the end of the day, people have to decide whether they like their own member of Congress. I'll give you an example. Right here in Louisville, Kentucky, my hometown, where I am today, there is a Democrat-leaning district that's been held by a Republican who's extraordinarily effective for 10 years. Now, I think there's virtually no chance that the Democrats could knock off our popular local Republican congresswoman because she's done a great job. And it seems to me that's the challenge they have over on the House side.
All right, well, let's get Chuck Schumer's take on all this. What do you think is going to happen, Senator?
Well, I think that we're going to do very, very well. The American people want change and new direction. They want to change because they see that basically this administration has been incompetent on whether it's on Katrina or Dubai Ports World or Medicare Part D or the war in Iraq. They see an administration that seems to substitute ideology and cronyism for competence, and they see a Congress that simply rubber stamps everything the administration does. We Democrats have a new direction, and we are going to change things should we get into power. We're going to do 6 things right away. First, we're going to pass a tougher ethics bill. Second, we're going to pass a real energy bill that does what the people need, not the oil companies, so we'll have energy independence. Third, we're going to restore tuition deductibility so that middle-class families can pay for college, something the Republicans just took away. Fourth, we're going to have a good Medicare Part D program so people can get prescription drugs, and the bill will be much more aimed at the average recipient than insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies. Fifth, we want to improve our armed forces. We want more special forces. We want to double them. And we want better intelligence so we can get the terrorists before they get us. And finally, stem cell research so that families who have members suffering from Alzheimer's or juvenile diabetes can get some relief. For all those reasons, we're doing very well. In fact, while we do have a tough map, Mitch is right. The Republicans are not ahead in a single blue state if you look at the polls, and we are even or ahead in 5 of theirs. So it's a long way to the election, but if you held a snapshot today, it would be 50-50.
All right, well, let's go to Elizabeth.
Senator Schumer, some Democrats are talking about if you win in 2006, that there's a lot of talk of subpoena power and that the Democrats would spend the last 2 years of the Bush administration investigating. Is that kind of talk going to put off some moderates, perhaps? Do you agree?
Well, I don't think that's what Democrats want to do in either the House or Senate, Elizabeth.
Nancy Pelosi has said so recently.
Well, she has said that she wants to focus on the things that I've talked about. We're going to focus on better ethics, and better energy, better education, better health care, better security, and stem cell research. We know that people want real change. They don't want partisan fighting. They don't want investigating. They want to make their lives a little bit better. And the Republicans, led by George Bush, and then a rubber stamp Congress that does just what he wants, haven't done that. That's why 60% of all Republicans say they want, 60% of all people say they want change, even a significant number of Republicans. And that's what we're going to do. We know the door is open because people don't like what the president and the Republican Congress are doing. But we're not going to walk through it unless we have a good platform, the kind that I outlined.
Who do you see as the most vulnerable Democrats in November?
Well, we're doing amazingly well. When the election started in 2005, we had 6 incumbents. They've targeted in every case the candidate that the Republican National Committee wanted to recruit. Their number 1 candidate didn't run. Of those 6 incumbents, 1 doesn't even have an opponent of much note, Kent Conrad, and the other 5 are ahead by more than 10 points. The idea that the races are going to just be anti-incumbency is wrong, because our incumbents, as I said, are ahead by 10 or more, and their incumbents are even or behind in a good number of the races.
Well, Senator McConnell, let me ask you about this whole business of immigration, which is not just caused a huge gulf of difference between Republicans and Democrats, but it's split up Republicans. I'm told this morning that 75% of the Republicans in the House now oppose any kind of amnesty or any kind of program that leads to citizenship for illegal aliens that are, or illegal immigrants that are already in this country. Yet that is what the president, something similar to that, that's what the president wants. Is this going to play a role in these elections? And in fact, do you believe that there's going to be an immigration bill at the end of the day that contains any of that?
Well, I hope there's going to be an immigration bill that's heavily weighted toward securing the borders. My personal view is that a comprehensive approach is better, but if we cannot get a bill between the House and Senate that adequately deals with border security, I don't think there will be a bill. I'd rather have one, and I'd rather have a guest worker program that works. This is going to be a hard conference. And Bob, if I may, just briefly, you were asking about the Democratic agenda, and Chuck, it's good to hear Chuck talking about it. We intend to talk about the Democratic agenda this fall, too, because Americans have forgotten what they do when they're in the majority. I can tell you what they'll do. They'll wave the white flag in the war on terror. They'll raise taxes. and they'll try to censure the president in the Senate and impeach the president in the House. This is what their agenda really is. And the American people, after all, in the fall will have a choice. It isn't going to just be a referendum on Republicans. It's going to be a choice between Republicans and what we've done and the Democrats and what they would do if they were in the majority for the last 2 years of the Bush presidency.
Well, what about that, Senator Schumer?
Well, here's the bottom line, and this is how the election will play out. Democrats are talking about things that will make people's lives better, that affect the average voter, whether it's gas prices or education or health care. And, you know, the Republican Party, whether it's the president or the Senate leadership, doesn't have anything to say other than these sort of fear tactics aimed at Democrats. Now, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for a couple of reasons. First, because we have a real agenda. Second, because the Democratic Party over the years has become a mainstream party. And we're much closer on the immigration bill, where Mitch and I voted on the same. This is an example. Mitch and I voted for the same bill, a balanced, tough bill. Yes, tough borders. And yes, no amnesty, but a path to earn citizenship. But they're busy fighting with each other. They're spending so much time trying to secure their base that we're able to reach out to mainstream Republicans in the middle. And I'll tell you one interesting thing, and this has happened over and over. I got a call from a fella, suburbs of Denver, telecom exec. He said, I'm a conservative Republican. I voted for Bush in '04. I'm voting for the Republican in '08. But let me know how I can help. We need some balance in this government, and we need a change in direction.
Bob?
Senator McConnell, let me just ask you, how much do the president's low approval numbers, he's hovering in the low 30s right now, how much does that affect these races?
Well, it's not helpful. I concede it's not helpful. We'd certainly like for the president to be in better shape. You know, what Chuck and his colleagues are doing in the Senate is block and blame. This week in Roll Call, one of our Capitol Hill newspapers, I'm just holding up a copy here to illustrate the point, Chuck and Harry Reid were telling the Democrats, don't co-sponsor any bills with Republicans who are in hard races. That gives you a sense of what's coming. They don't want to cooperate. They want to block progress and try to blame us. It's not going to work. Block and blame didn't work in '02. Block and blame didn't work in '04. And block and blame won't work in '06.
Well, let me just say here that the American people want change. They want a new direction. And Mitch says we're blocking progress. We are standing up to George Bush when he's doing the wrong thing. And 60% of Americans, a little more than 60, think he is not doing the right thing, either on domestic policy, where for a long while they've thought that, or even foreign policy, which they haven't. So I think we're doing two things. Yes, we're standing up to George Bush when he's wrong, but we are also putting forward a positive platform on education and health care and all these other issues that will make America's lives better. And that's why Democrats are doing well, and that's why we're going to do well in the election.
Senator McConnell, what do you think it will come down to in the fall? Will it be the war in Iraq? Will it be the corruption that Washington finds itself engulfed in? Will it be this immigration thing? What do you think will be the overriding issue in these campaigns?
Well, the ethics issues that have developed, which are certainly disturbing, are totally bipartisan in nature. I don't think that's an issue that, frankly, advantages either side. I think where we have popular incumbents running for re-election, Bob, in all likelihood, the key thing is going to be whether their constituents feel that they've done a good job representing the state and the nation. And this notion that somehow bipartisanship will come about with Democratic majorities is belied by the fact that in the Senate, the whole strategy during most of the Bush administration is to encourage Democratic senators not to cooperate on anything.
Well, are you saying then that the war is not going to be a factor?
I think the war does have a dampening effect on the overall popularity of the president. On the other hand, individual members of the Senate do not dictate the strategy in the war. And also, we're going to be reminding Americans that we haven't been attacked again here at home since 9/11. It's not an accident. It's not a quirk of fate. It's because we've been on offense, going after the people who would do us harm in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And we're going to remind people that even though the going has been difficult in Iraq, as a result of fighting these kind of people where they are, we haven't had to fight them in Washington and New York.
All right.
The absence of attack here at home is success.
All right. Does that argument work, Senator Schumer?
No, absolutely not. If you look, the American people see there's really no plan in Iraq. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. We're told 18 months ago that we're going to turn over the policing duties and the military duties to the Iraqi armed forces, and they can't do the job at all. We don't have body armor for our troops, either on their bodies or their Humvees, and what the Democrats have done, and this is what we should do. We are holding the president accountable. As the opposition party in Congress, we're saying, where is your plan? That's why we were able to force the Senate to pass a resolution of accountability back in November, which got about 79 votes. The war is going to be a real problem for the president because he simply has not persuaded the American people that he has any path, any light at the end of the tunnel, while Democrats are doing what our job is, which is to hold the president accountable on these issues.
All right. Well, I have to thank both of you this morning. We'll stop there. Obviously, this is a discussion that's going to go on right up until Election Day. We'll be back with a little roundtable to talk about it some more in just a minute. Thank you.
This portion of Face the Nation is sponsored by ADM. ADM, resourceful by nature. And by TD Ameritrade, the independent spirit.
The world's demand for energy will never stop, which is why a farmer is growing corn, and a farmer is growing soy, and why ADM is turning these crops into biofuels. The world's demand for energy will never stop, which is why ADM will never stop. We're only getting started. ADM, resourceful by nature.
The quest for independence is what drives Americans. It's no different when the subject is money or investments. You can pursue your financial independence your way. And TD Ameritrade is dedicated to helping you do that, with knowledgeable people who inform without selling, with solidly independent research, straightforward pricing. The new TD Ameritrade. Independence is the spirit that drives America's most successful investors.
Why do I like working here? I'm part of something big. I'm part of the future. I bring people together and send smiles, literally. Michael's my son. We have a good time together. Michael thinks my job is pretty cool. But what I like the most is that Verizon Wireless works as hard for me as I do for our customers. Through our tuition reimbursement program, I earn my certification. As I grow, the company grows. I am Diane Mundy, Verizon Wireless Project Engineer. It's very exciting to be part of something like this.
And we're back again with Elizabeth Bumiller, the White House correspondent for the New York Times for what, the last 5 years, Elizabeth?
Almost 5.
And you're getting ready to go off on book leave now to write a book about Condoleezza Rice. I'd just like to get your thoughts about your observations over these past 5 years watching the Bush administration. And I must say this week, I found it extraordinary that the president went before a news conference with Tony Blair and said, you know, maybe I used kind of the wrong language when I was talking to Bring 'em On and Osama bin Laden, dead or alive. Now, we know Laura Bush has corrected him for some of those tough things he said in the past, but he seemed genuinely regretful that he has said these things. What do you make of this?
Well, it's the second term. He's in a very weakened political position. He took enormous political hits also in the first term. When I remember there was a press conference in April of 2004 when he was asked, can you think of any mistakes you've made? And he couldn't think of a thing. And this is a little like the husband who can never admit he was wrong. But he took a lot of political hits for that. And I also think at the time he thought that admitting a mistake in the midst of a re-election campaign was just going to be fodder for John Kerry. Now he's 2 years out, you know, and I also think it reflects what he has said in private. And his friends say that he's much more reflective about the last 3 years in private than he's ever been publicly.
So you don't think, and it's hard to ascribe motives to anyone, this was not something he had planned out. This is just something, this is sort of how he feels now? Well,
it was also something he planned out. Let's be honest here. He ever since he couldn't answer that question in 2004, the White House has prepared for the question coming up again, and I think that he certainly had a ready answer. It came out very quickly. And a lot of his critics have said that what's the big deal? He was just admitting mistakes about language. He was not admitting mistakes, say, that they would say about disbanding the Iraqi army, or was Jerry Bremer the right person for the job?
Or going into Iraq.
Going in at all, right.
In the first place. I want to ask you also about this rather unusual situation that's developed when the FBI went in and searched the office of a congressman, a Democratic congressman, and I must say there's no sympathy that I can find around Washington for him. This man was photographed taking a $100,000 payoff given to him by an FBI undercover agent. But the FBI went into his Capitol Hill office with a federal court order and searched it, and Congress is in just a complete uproar, demanding that that the first time that the FBI has ever gone into a congressman's office, apparently the Speaker of the House, Dennis Hastert, went to the president. As a result of that, the president sealed the documents that the FBI got. But we're also told that his own attorney general and the FBI director threatened to resign if he had told the FBI to give those documents back. Where does this all end?
I don't know. He's given the 45-day cooling off period. I think the president had to weigh. He weighed in. It was extraordinary that he weighed in himself and said, and he made a decision that we were going to wait. It shows, I think, first of all, that he, again, is a little weakened politically because he was trying to placate a very angry Congress. For the last 5 years, this is a president who has pushed the powers of the presidency to new without limit, and Congress is tired of it. But the other thing that I noticed that Senator Schumer had said over the weekend was that this has been going on for 5 years and with the American people, but when it hits home in Congress, then when it directly affects members of Congress, then there's an uproar.
Now, where does this immigration situation, do you think there's going to be a bill in the end? Congressman Sensenbrenner, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the House, said this morning that flatly there will not be a bill if it includes any kind of a program that can be described as amnesty, or if it provides this path to citizenship as the president wants.
Well, the New York Times doesn't like it when I predict, and I can obviously say I just don't have any idea. It looks really tough for the president right now. He is, his position is so out of step with House Republicans. His position is a very centrist position. The House Republicans would say it's very liberal, that he wants to give, some of the 11 million illegal immigrants in this country a chance at citizenship, and certainly to allow them to stay here at least on a temporary basis. So what he's been trying to do, we saw it a week and a half ago, he went all the way out to Yuma, Arizona for the day, stood on the border and said he would like to see a fence in parts of the border. He's never talked like that before. He gave a primetime speech saying he wanted 6,000 additional National Guard troops on the border. This obviously is to placate the House. Judging from Sensenbrenner, it doesn't look like it's working so far.
All right. Well, good luck on your book.
Thank you.
And we'll be talking to you along the way. We'll be back with a final word in just a minute.
Face the Nation continues and is always on CBSNews.com, brought to you in part by Walmart. Walmart and Sam's Club pharmacies accept all Medicare prescription drug plans and at the Walmart price. You'll get a great value for your prescription dollars.
What if cars and trucks could be fueled by corn? Introducing the full line of Chevrolet Flex Fuel vehicles that run on both gasoline and corn-based E85 ethanol. The choice is yours. Chevrolet, an American revolution.
The German word for safe is sicher. The Portuguese word for firewall is muro de fogo. The Chinese word for password is mima. My company's in 17 countries now, and I can say secure in every one of them.
Dynamic networking from AT&T identifies security threats before they're problems, so Jane's confidence grows right alongside her company. The new AT&T, your world delivered.
What happens if reducing stress reduces accidents too? Because we consider what might change tomorrow, our customers can feel more relaxed about what might happen today. Zurich, because change happens.
I'm Anne, and I'm a GSK scientist. I just started Alzheimer's research when my grandmother was diagnosed. I wanted to hurry up and find a cure. We started working on ideas that no one else had tried, and we're getting closer. What I see in the lab is very exciting. What I see at last is hope.
GlaxoSmithKline. Today's medicines finance tomorrow's miracles.
Finally, every year on the Memorial Day weekend, we hear the words, "This is a time we honor those who have fallen in battle in defense of this country." But do we really take those words to heart? Do we do anything more than make a mental note? Oh yeah, this is when we honor the military people who got killed, and then head out to the ball game or a picnic. I have an idea that won't interfere with your weekend. What better way to honor the dead than to remember the wounded? Medical science has improved to the point that thousands upon thousands of young Americans who would have died in previous wars are returning home, but not as God made them, but as war has left them, with horrible injuries. Many are multiple amputees. We cannot yet know if this war will prove worth it, but the one thing we do know is that years from now, whatever the answer to that question, these young people's arms and legs will not have grown back. There are many ways to help them, but here are two fine organizations you may want to consider. The Walter Reed Society at www.walterreedsociety.org, which helps families of the wounded meet unexpected financial crises, and the Yellow Ribbon Society at www.yellowribbonfund.org, which helps families find housing and transportation while service members are in the hospital. I know that all of them will appreciate it. That's it for us. We'll see you next week right here on Face the Nation.
America's energy needs are constantly changing. And when the need arises, it's good to know there's a company out there that can quickly react. Citgo. With the backing of Petroleus de Venezuela, we can provide resources in a matter of days versus weeks or months. Citgo. Energy now and for the road ahead.
We see brilliant young minds designing software that helps students find the books they need, creating a way for musicians to connect online and jam, chasing ideas, competing in the Microsoft Imagine Cup, training for brilliant futures. Find out more.
This portion of Face the Nation was sponsored by Citgo, Energy Now and for the Road Ahead, and by Microsoft, your potential, our passion. This broadcast was produced by CBS News, which is solely responsible for the selection of today's guests and topics. It originated in Washington, D.C.
Experience CBS News.
This week, 10 unknown actors and actresses, wannabe stars. Only 2 will make their Broadway debut. See who will walk the Great White Way on The Early Show.
Mel Gibson in a network television premiere. We Were Soldiers. CBS tonight.